This meeting is being recorded.
Scheduled meeting for Rio Dell City Council, July 20th, 2021. And as the Mayor Pro Tem in the absence of Mayor Garnes, I'll be chairing this meeting. Roll call, please.
Mayor Garnes?
Excused.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Here.
Councilmember Carter? Here. Councilmember Wilson?
Here.
Councilmember Woodall? Here.
Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The city manager has some comments about the order of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Good evening and welcome to the July 20th, 2021 Rio Dell City Council meeting. Before we get started, there are some modifications to this meeting format that we want to make sure everyone understands. First, there are requirements for those attending this meeting in person that are set by Cal OSHA. At the door, there is a self-attestation form related to vaccination status. If you have not filled it out either tonight or at a previous council meeting, please do so now. If you're fully vaccinated, you do not need to wear a mask during this meeting. However, if you are still unvaccinated or in the process, we ask that you wear a mask during this meeting. There are masks available towards the door. We also highly suggest using the hand sanitizer. As always, if you start to feel ill, please head home. Again, these are the requirements for being able to hold these meetings in person, keep everyone safe, keep our doors open to the public and the economy moving forward. Second, as you can see, we have some changes in this chamber to allow for hybrid meetings for people to attend in person and also virtually via Zoom. This is in an effort to expand safe access to these meetings for members of the public. This is a new system and we are working on it and we will be improving it over time. However, the most important thing to remember is that during a meeting of the Rio Dell City Council, only one person may speak at any time. And it is important that the person speak clearly and loudly. Strict adherence to decorum and protocol will be especially needed to help make sure we continue to be able to provide this extended access to virtual participants. As such, the Mayor Pro Tem will remind all council members, public attendees, and staff that you will need to be called upon by the Mayor Pro Tem in order to speak. Likewise, any speaker who holds the floor should not be interrupted other than by the Mayor Pro Tem for this meeting. This is good parliamentary procedure, but it also helps to ensure greater public participation in the process. So I'll just briefly go over the technology that we have implemented here in the council chambers. In the chambers, we have two meeting owls that are networked together that will be scanning the room following those who speak. And it especially helps when you speak loudly and clearly towards the microphone. It will pick up all the noise in the room and zero in on the speaker, and then it's obviously displayed up here on the screens. So with that, we did have a snafu at our last meeting in terms of implementing this. And it was definitely a fluke related to Microsoft updating some drivers on our laptop. But we do think we have this thing squared away for tonight's meeting. And certainly we'll be receiving some feedback, which we appreciate from those attending via Zoom, which there are several folks attending via Zoom. The meeting is also captured on Access Humboldt, who are tuning into the meeting through the owls and through the Zoom platform. So with that, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I will return it back here to you.
Thank you, City Manager. Next item on the agenda, ceremonial matters. Certificate of appreciation to Marlene Snell. It reads as follows: certificate of appreciation presented to Marlene Snell. With grateful appreciation
and sincere thanks for the many years dedicated to the gardening at Triangle Park. Your commitment to our community is duly recognized and greatly appreciated. Signed by Mayor Kevin Lawrence. Is there anybody that would like to speak to that matter? Councilmember Will.
Marlene has been doing this for about over 10 years. And I never realized what a job it was when she decided that she can't do it anymore. I thought maybe I could do it. I had no idea how much work and time she spent over there. She always brought her own water to water all the plants. She also watered the library side, the plants underneath there. She weeded, and she really did a fine job. And that's a long time to do it, and I just want to thank her. I really appreciate what she's done.
Any other comments from council members? Good job. Yeah, it's anybody that takes on a commitment for a decade to kind of be not in the limelight, but on the sideline, making sure that our city is beautiful is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much, Marlene. Is there any comments from the public on this matter? No. Public presentation. This time is for persons who wish to address the council on any matter not on the agenda over which the council has jurisdiction. As such, a dialogue with the council or staff is not allowed under the Ralph M. Brown Act. Items requiring council action not listed on this agenda may be placed on the next regular agenda for consideration if the council directs, unless a finding is made by at least 2/3 of the council that an item came up after the agenda was posted and is of an urgency nature requiring immediate action. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Any comments from the public? Any emails or hands raised? No. Okay. Next item, consent calendar. There are 7 items on the consent calendar tonight. First, minutes of the July 6th regular meeting. Number 2, approved resolution 1496/2021, amending the city manager salary table. Item 3, approved resolution 1497-2021, amending the position allocation table and approving job description for new management analysts 1 and 2 and senior positions. Item number 4, approve amendment to the city of Rio Dell employees handbook to include Juneteenth, which is June 19th, as a city recognized paid holiday. Item number 5, approve resolution 1498, designating a voting delegate for the California Cities 2021 annual conference. Item 6, authorize city manager and chief of police to sign memorandum of understanding with City of Fortuna for police dispatch services and adopting resolution 1499. And item 7, receive and file check register for June 2021. Any member of the council wish to pull any of these items? Mr. Wilson.
I'd like to pull items 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Anybody else wish to pull an item?
No.
Okay, are there any hands raised or emails? No. Okay. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve items 1, 4 through 7.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Roll call. Vote please. Or excuse me. Vote please. Motion carries 4-0 with 1 absent. Mr. Wilson, items 2 and 3.
I'll hold the 2 together because they're tied together. But my question is primarily on 2 with the salary compensation schedule. I think some of these questions would be, I'm not sure if they're the city manager or finance director. City manager, the analyst position is primarily for
economic development is to help you or assist you in your duties performing that?
So the analyst will be performing a variety of duties. The analyst position ideally will be assigned a pretty significant portfolio in economic development, but it won't necessarily be exclusive to economic development. All the staff in the city wear multiple hats. So, conceivably, the individual could be assigned roles in public works, or could be assigned other research work related to council work, or anything like that. So just like any other staff person, they're going to have a pretty broad array of responsibilities. And part of that too will also be the qualifications of any applicant and whoever is hired. So somebody has a very strong background in economic development. Obviously, they would be receiving more of those projects. If they have a particularly strong background in another area, they might take the lead on certain projects in concert with the city manager and the management staff.
My main questions stem around the salary allocation table. We read through Kaufman Associates. They did a study that appeared on recommending what to do with this job and the wages associated. They commented that all the comparator agencies that were using, only one had 70% of that job description in it. So they weren't able to really fully give a recommendation, but they yet still came back and gave some salary recommendations. And then when we come to the allocation table, there's quite a difference in particularly the senior analyst one was matched pretty almost identically to their recommendation. But in the analyst two, which I believe is what we're hiring for, there's a 45% difference in the increase of what the city is offering compared to what Kaufman Associates recommended. And that's in a range of 16 to 17 to $21,000 difference. So it's about half again as much. That's when I look at their job description and detail of that. Their job description looks like it was almost a copy and paste of that goes into our job description. So I'm wondering what is the disparity that made it go so much higher?
So I am not aware of really what specifically you're referring to. If our finance director, Cheryl Dillingham, is online, maybe she has some insight onto that. I don't know if she can be unmuted, pressing star.
Through the mayor?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not following that because I thought that we did the management analyst 1, the management analyst 2, and the senior management analyst at the recommendation, matched the recommendation from Kaufman Associates. I will say I was not there when their memo came through, but I thought that we were doing exactly what they told us to do.
Well, if you turn on page 14 of our packet, they list the prices of the analyst 1 would range in an annual, they give it in yearly, if you multiply it by 12, it comes out in the annual time, and it was from 35,900, 36,000 to roughly 43,000. Where in Rio Dell was listing it at 52,000 to 62,000. On analyst 2, Koff is recommending roughly 40,000 to 48,000, where Rio Dell is recommending 57,000 to 69,000. And so that breaks down to a 45% difference higher than what Kaufman Associates is recommending. What I was going to do is make a proposal that we accept staff's recommendations for the salary table and the job description, and just amend it to accept cost, wage recommendations as per their study. Does that make sense?
If I understand you correct, Councilmember Wilson, you're saying to accept what's on pages 12 and 13 of packet regarding management analyst 1, management analyst 2, and senior management analyst. But then in the salary ranges, use what the ranges that are on page 14 of our staff report, of our packet. Is that correct?
Right, down on 14, about, it's the second to the last paragraph, there's a thing that says K&A conducted. In that range there, it tells you what their starting and maximum range for analyst 1 is, and then what the same thing for what starting and maximum for analyst 2, and then what it is for analysts for senior analysts. That those numbers in their study be what would be placed in our salary allocation table.
Correct. Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions from council members?
I'm just still kind of confused about this. I mean, it's Walker right here.
Well, basically, Julie, if we took these numbers and multiplied them out, we don't come up with
With the numbers,
what's in the table. And so the proposal, the motion is to have the numbers in the table correspond to the numbers.
and a 45% less.
It's some amount less.
It's saying that Rio Dell's, the table is 45% higher than what Coffin Associates recommend, about 50%.
If I can, through the mayor, I think what ended up happening here is the memo came in just prior to publication. The information that's in the table that staff put together is the correct information. And I think what happened was that either there was an older draft, because the top step is correct, but the other two are not in the memo from Coffin Associates. We can have them issue a clarification memo after it, but what is in the staff table is the correct figure.
Can we hold off on this then until they issue that clarification? It is a significant amount of money. It takes this job position and it creates this system analyst 2 becomes the fourth highest paid person in the city that's that the salary is tops out at like $69,000 on the analyst 2 and $77,000. Well, senior management cash, so that was $77,000. A senior second analyst that we're hiring, where Coff had it at 48,000 versus 69,000, which is $21,000 difference annually. Not counting benefits. If that means that we need to wait till the next council meeting and have that clarified, I'm certainly good with that too.
I think given what we've got here, I think we need to table this matter until we get some more information from Coffin Associates. And then bring it back to the council at that time. That's all. Yeah, okay. Items 2 and 3 are tabled. Do you want to retract your motion?
I would retract that motion and make a motion that we table this. Okay, we get the information. Okay.
Is there a second on
I'll
that?
second that motion.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second to table items 2 and 3. Let's have a vote, please. Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Next item is staff manager, or city manager, and staff update, page 52 of our packet. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, and to the council items on page 52 of your packet. So I'll just go over the work over the last couple of weeks with the pave project with ST Roads. Went overall very well. We had some pretty significant work on Aloha, as well as on Oval and some other streets throughout town, including Dixie. Just one of the common questions that staff has received, and that we want to just make sure that anybody listening is clarified on. Questions regarding the extension of the pavement along Oval Avenue to the north end of Oval. The problem associated with the north end of Oval Avenue is that the water lines underneath the road are in need of replacement. In addition, there's some pretty severe drainage issues along that road. And so the council gave direction that, and for good reason, to avoid paving sections of road that we're knowingly going to have to rip up and replace the infrastructure in the near future. So it is targeted for some drainage enhancements, which are in the 5-year queue that the council arranged. And then we also have a grant pending for the a grant application pending for the water line replacement in that road. So that's a common question, why have certain roads been are getting paved and others are not. There are some other significant roads that have deteriorated that also need additional work. So they are not currently on the list. Some of those roads include the 2nd Avenue, which is, if not the worst, one of the worst in town. Elk, I believe. Elm, excuse me, Elm, and a couple others that need some underground work related to them. So with that, I also was hoping that our wastewater superintendent, Derek Taylor, could also provide a quick update on Tesla.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, members of council. After I had written my staff report for submittal for the agenda, I had made contact with the project manager of Tesla, and he had mentioned that late Friday, he had gotten in contact with PG&E to come by for a site visit to check on a variance approval for the installation of battery packs in its current design location. Once we get word from them, permission or denial, we'll know more. But at this point, Marcel's and Tesla are looking forward to continuing on the project and finishing that up.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Yes, Mr. Wilson.
This is to city manager on the paving projects. Is the money that we've allocated, the 500,000 over 5 years, is a lot of that coming out of the sales tax initiative that we did that comes out of the general fund, or is it somewhere else? Where is
So it comes, that project is exclusively funded by the general fund, which is made up of multiple components of funding coming in. Notably, there would be sales tax revenue in there. There's everything from TOT to the cannabis taxes, which is the most recent pretty significant increase in terms of general fund revenue.
Is there any way that we could, I guess, give credit to the, I mean, obviously part of it's coming from the, you see, it all comes out of general fund, so say what part of general fund is doing that, but so that the public can understand that sales tax money is going towards fixing their streets, so that the next time that we ask, when that expires and we ask for it again, that they see that what we're doing with it, so that we get it again. Because this is a good use of, I think it's an unbelievable thing for our city that with this maybe, done, but the public appreciate that, support us when we ask for more money to do those, put up signs, put it in the newsletter.
Yeah, I would say from staff's perspective, there are really kind of two critical developments that have gotten the city to where it is today. One of those would be the original passage of Measure U and the extension of Measure J. Certainly put the city into a position where it was not talking about further reductions to city services that are already at that point in time pretty minimal with very limited revenue coming in. The other key component in this was the passage of land use policies that allow for commercial cannabis development, as well as the passage of Measure X, which is the cannabis tax measure, which this year became the general fund's largest single source of revenue into the city.
Just a suggestion, city manager, that the next newsletter that we mail out to everybody in the community, if we could kind of summarize that, maybe with some pictures of, the improvements to Dixie, Eloa. I think it would help explain to the community and give them thanks for their support over the last half dozen years or so for the tax measures that have enabled us to do the paving of these streets. Any other comments? Yes.
Oh, I just have a question for Chief. With Sergeant Boucher now, I was looking, can we work Officer Fielder, or is he just pretty much a very part-time person?
Officer Fielder also works for the Ferndale Police Department and is retired. His significant other requires his presence at his home.
I thought maybe so. I saw him today, and that's what made me think of it.
He works 1 day a week, and then occasionally, for example, on Wildwood days, he'll be working both Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you.
But he's pretty good.
Any public comments? Any comments from the audience? Moving on to the next item on the agenda, special call items. Number 1, appeal of water and sewer charges, 325 Berkeley. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Members of the council, this item begins on page 59 of your packet. Page 59 includes the staff briefing of this particular issue. There are ultimately 3 resolutions to this request, which is an appeal of the water and sewer charges for 325 Berkeley Street, or specifically the sewer portion of the charges. One is to reject the appeal. The second is to waive late fees and reject the remainder of the appeal. The third is to grant the appeal in full. So there's a fourth option, which would be to continue the meeting and to request additional information if the council needs additional time. So I don't think there's a specific rush for this particular item. But pages 59 and 60 include the staff briefing. And if you look at page 61, is the appeal made by the Ryan Huesler, the owner of the said property. So with that, we'll go ahead and return back to the Mayor Pro Tem, see if there's any questions or comments to staff.
Thank you, City Manager. Council members, are there any questions, comments?
I think so.
I have things to say. Reading through this, it seems to me like what we're up against is how we define the word customer, right? And does it mean somebody's a customer? It seems like the city says we're a customer if we buy a house at Rio Dell, or charged this flat sewer rate. And it seems that Ryan, am I getting it right? Mr. Huesler feels like if his water wasn't turned on, he didn't ask for water, that he doesn't count as a customer, right? So to me, that's the underlying issue. I can say I live in that area and it does look, it's really nice to drive by that house. I do think there's been a benefit. I would be upset if I would appeal the bill in that situation too. I do understand that we do have a municipal code and those are the rules. And I do see that it's sometimes hard to, you don't want to set a precedent, which I understand. But I do think that as a citizen of Rio Dell, personally, I didn't know that I got charged regardless of whether or not I had water service in. So I was just going to suggest moving forward that maybe we could make that more clear somehow. I mean, I know that not everybody comes in saying, I'm gonna buy this house, but I don't want water service for another year. But maybe if somebody does, we give them a special heads up. So I'm not weighing in on what exactly we do, it's just, these are my thoughts.
Okay, manager. So, and just to clarify, there's two different functions here. One is water services.
Right.
And the other is wastewater services. So under the municipal code, wastewater is treated differently in that those with access to or receiving services from are subject to that minimum charge. That's been a policy for quite a while. And in any case, the city probably could do a better job of advertising that to the public, making sure that folks understand that. But I just want to make it clear that really what we're talking about here specifically is going to be sewer.
Any other comments, council members? Yes.
It is, I won't say it's ambiguous, it is unclear. Our water sewer thing is complicated, and that is part of this, I understand part of the study that we're doing is supposed to make it simpler so that people understand. So I don't know, what Mr. Huesler was in his knowledge of whether or not when he bought the place, he was liable for the sewer bill. I don't know what that is. What people do or don't know. Ignorance is no excuse in law, but it is one of those things that the citizen buys the property and they clean it up and they're trying to make it better and they get charged even though they're not using any use of that service which is hooked up. So whether it's a terminology thing or what, no. I don't see where the city's out anything like charged by it, not charged. I don't see where this is being hurt, whether it's a policy or not. So depends how the motion is made, how we handle it.
Councilmember Wall?
So during the 8 months, did we send a bill out for at least the sewer? That said that the utilities for the base sewer rate were not received by Mr. Huesler. So did you not send out a bill for the?
So we'll see if Cheryl Dillingham is on the line to answer that question.
Okay, can you hear me now? Through the mayor? The bills were sent out, but they were returned because we did not have the name of the person who currently owned the property because he never came in after he purchased the house.
And Cheryl, where were the residents?
They were sent to the prior, I believe they were sent to that address addressed to the prior resident. And I believe the post office returned them because they had the prior resident's name on it. And they knew that that person was no longer there at that resident.
Yes.
And-
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and the ladies in the office we had no way of knowing who the person was that had purchased the house until he came in to request water. And this isn't the first time this has happened where a person has bought a house and maybe not moved in and not turned on the water and then come in and to show that they have to show that they own the house. And so then they show the date that they bought it. And basically all of those people have been charged for that base sewer rate back to the date that they purchased the house, even if they hadn't been living in it and they hadn't had the water turned on. And I do believe the way that base rate is calculated, it's calculated on the number of sewer connections in the city. And then that is the base rate. So in other words, we know how many people are connected and we multiply that number out to come up with the base amount that we need to operate the plant.
The city clerk, did Mr. Hustler apply for a building permit?
Yes, he did. I was aware, I knew that he was the owner, but the front office and the back office don't always communicate those things, so.
The city had knowledge of who the owner was and what his residence was, just by the.
I knew that, and Kevin knew that, but
Yeah, that he applied for a
yes,
building
he
permit.
did.
Yes, that's right.
So when did the water get turned on? At what point?
Cheryl, did you hear the question?
Okay, there we go. I'm having a hard time getting unmuted. The water was turned on in April. So these are charges from September through April. Did you hear me?
Yes, yeah. Given as many facts as we now have, what would the council like to do? Mr. Wilson?
I personally would like to see that the bill waived until April because it didn't look like there was communication to him to be responsible for it. That would be my take.
I would concur.
Councilmember Woodall?
I would approve the waiver for the $259 in late charges and water charges, reject remainder of the bill where he still pays the sewer.
So you would, even though he did not receive any bill for what, 8 months or so, 7 months.
It was still an option for him to, it was there for him, and that's how with everyone else. That's why they get charged, it's there for them to use. I can understand the water, but,
Okay, I think we're ready for, is there anybody from public who'd like to speak? Yes, please, come forward and.
So I'm the property owner, Reiner, so most of you guys know me. Matter of fact, 10 of your guys' city staff knows me and knows I purchased that house. I actually found out about it from city staff. I would gladly, and I still would gladly pay the sewer because it is pretty clearly road. Now, I came tonight to disagree with it on matter of, we have no development in this town. And you guys talk about economic development and hiring somebody to do this, but you're shoving contractors out of this town faster than they're coming in. You're shoving developers out of this town faster than they're coming in. I've been in construction 20 years. I've lived in this town 40 years. I'm only 40 years old. It means I've never lived anywhere but this town. Everybody I know says, don't build Rio Dell. Don't do nothing in Rio Dell. Don't make Rio Dell nicer. I've started to understand why. I'm getting hit with, I saw about $400. I could pay $400. It's about every nickel and dime the city's done to all these other past contractors, and now it's happening to myself. I sold a lot up to Grayland Heights 3 years ago. The gentleman's finally building because the red tape the city's put them through. If the red tape doesn't stop or at least slow down, this town's not gonna grow. This town's gonna stay the low-income town it's been the last 100 years. and we're never gonna get better. Yeah, we want to spend $69,000 a year on somebody for economic development. I'll tell you why it's not developing, because we've pushed it to the point that people can't. They're going to Fortuna because they're gonna make 40% higher profit on their projects. I took this project on, it was the worst house in town, in my opinion. I hauled 55,000 pounds of garbage alone off the place, probably 100,000 pounds of grain waste. I didn't do it because I wanted free sewer. Now, it was a shock to me when I went and had my water turned on to get an $800 bill or $600 bill, whatever it was. I'm not in disagreement of paying the sewer because it's clearly wrote in your guys' ordinance. But I would like the city staff and the city council to take another look at these, because there's a reason no one's building down here. There's a reason you guys don't see lumber racks going through this town. It's the $400 here, the $400 there, the, hey, Mr. Hurst, we want you to put in an 88 sidewalk. There's a reason why my sidewalks aren't done down there. Well, in about 2 weeks, welcome to south side of town. 3rd and Berkeley is gonna have the first 88 sidewalks in town. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's driving the builders out, it's driving the developers out. We need to make change, and this is gonna stay in this low slope the whole entire time. Everyone can blame COVID for people not building. Go to Fortuna, go to Eureka, go anywhere else in Humboldt County. Construction is thriving. I know because I'm there. I'm not here because I just can't see to do it. So that was my point of showing up tonight. You know, if the council elects that they want me to pay the sewer, I'm not opposed to it. No hard feelings. I do think that it's an ethical bill when if you don't have water, in my opinion, you don't have sewer. You can't flush your toilet. If I'd known that, I'd have a free sign out there, dump your RV right here. You know, I still might do that. I don't know. That's sarcastic. I'm not gonna do that. But what I'm saying is the city has to change their ways where the contractors aren't gonna come back into town. They pushed everybody out, and something needs to turn around here, or we're gonna stay this same little town forever. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from the public? No. Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion that we grant his appeal in full.
You made a motion to option number 3, grant the appeal in full. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries with 3-1 vote. Councilmember Law in the negative, and Mayor Carmen's absent. Moving on, item number 2, appointment of 2 council members to the Beautification, Walkability, and Pride Committee, page 63 of our packet. Staff report, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, members of the council. So at the regular meeting of June 15th of this year, the council adopted the ordinance creating the Beautification, Walkability, and Pride Committee. The committee is made up of 2 members of the city council and 3 members of the public. The purpose of the committee is to provide an annual report to the city council with specific recommendations for projects that enhance the visual aesthetic and wayfaring quality of Rio Dell. Notice of vacancy was posted on June 17th, 2021, with the final date of submissions of application by July 16th. So at the time of publication, no applications were received from members of the public. As such, to date, for submittal was extended to July 30th, 2021 for potential appointment by the council at the August 3rd regular meeting. Staff's recommendation is to go ahead and appoint the 2 council members at this meeting in anticipation of us being able to appoint the remaining 3 public members at the upcoming city council regularly scheduled meeting.
Thank you. City clerk, has there been any additional interest?
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, I had one email from someone who's interested that will be submitting an application by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you. Well, I know that Councilmember Carter has expressed a huge desire
Yes.
to be on this committee, and so has Mayor Torrance. Any other comments?
I think that's great. I'm not a beautification guy, but I certainly appreciate what they did.
Okay. So consensus is Carter and Garnes are appointed to beautification walkability ride committee. Item number 3 on the community affairs public hearing, authorization for city manager to sign an agreement with Larry Walker and Associates, $38,571, consultation services related to wastewater treatment plant permitting. Discussion of possible action, page 65 of our packet. Staff report, the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, members of the council. So every 5 years, the city has to seek and receive a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, NPDES permit for short, to operate the wastewater treatment plant. So this regulatorily wise is where really the rubber meets the road. These permits can vary in length from state to state. So I believe in Kansas, as one of our former wastewater superintendents likes to remind us, their NPDES permit is about 8 pages long. In California, it's a different story. And I believe Rio Dell's permit verges in excess of 200 pages. Somewhere, give or take. Don't quote me on that specific number, but it's a fairly lengthy document and a fairly lengthy process. So every year, that regulation has ratcheted up through the Basin Plan and through the State Water Resources Control Board, really culminating about 10 or 15 years ago in the city's really inability at that point in time to meet any of the NPDES requirements with the older style plant that the city had. So the council may recall there was a development curtailment issued by the state of California that limited the ability of the city to do building projects for private contractors to do building projects in the long term. So that process ultimately led the council at that point in time to build the current wastewater treatment facility that we have, which is an advanced activated sludge facility. It is, in terms of the Eel River watershed, probably currently the newest and the most expensive facility on the watershed. However, it meets the regulatory requirements that protect the water quality of the Eel River, which is a freshwater basin. Certainly, if we kept the older plant, there would be significant violations and penalties, and we would have eventually been forced to build. We were forced to build the plant anyway. So. So that's the general background of this. This permit is extremely important in terms of how we react to what the Water Board wants us to do. Last year, we probably received the most strict and stringent NPDES permit that the city's ever received for that. We did, upon the recommendations of our neighbors, hire Downey Brand as an attorney to help consult with the city staff in terms of the process 5 years ago. And so now today, the attorney is recommending that the city utilize Larry Walker Associates to help the city through this latest NPDES cycle. And this is really money very well spent because we don't ultimately want to be meeting requirements that are in excess of the law. So there's the regulatory requirements and then there's the law, and we want to make sure that we're pushing back appropriately on unnecessary regulatory requirements, such as testing that doesn't even register with the outfits that do wastewater quality testing, practical things like that. But we need expert advice to help us with in this process. It is a very complex regulatory area. And we are fortunate this go around to have excellent staff with Derek Taylor. The last go around, council may recall, we didn't really have any staff consistency in our wastewater division. So this go around, the recommendation from staff is to hire Larry Walker and Associates to provide those consultation services to make sure that the NPDES permit that we have protects the environment, but also protects our ratepayers in the city from paying more than is necessary to protect the river, which we all feel is a very important thing to do. So with that, if I skipped anything or missed anything, Derek Taylor is here to answer any questions that you may have. Derek, was there anything that you felt that needed to be added to that?
I feel like Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, members of the council, I feel city manager not did a good job explaining kind of the current situation that we're faced with in regard to the upcoming permit renewal. It is a pretty complicated, drawn out process that starts now and that you will finish after hearings and a little bit more research into what our last 5 years look like and what the next 5 years looks like in the view of the state. We do have limited resources in terms of personnel, and it is quite a project. And at this time, I'm recommending that we approve the $38,000 to hire an outside consultant to kind of usher us through this next permitting process and kind of keep things smooth sailing.
Thank you. Council, Mr. Wilson.
I agree with Mr. Taylor, city manager. If we were able to figure this out, Mr. Taylor could probably be a consultant. That's complicated as California is with the rules. So I agree we should put the support in.
Yeah, I read through our last NPDES permit, all 187 pages or whatever it is. And it's monstrous. It's very difficult to understand. Even for engineers, it's difficult to understand. And we certainly need help in getting a fair shake, pushing back where we can rightfully push back, accepting what we rightfully should accept, and not a dollar more. And so I agree with staff's recommendation. Any other comments? Any public comments? Audience comments?
Yes,
Yes.
I agree, and it's every 5 years, so when you look at it, it looks less over a 5 year period than.
Yeah, and we're gonna be saving money for 5 years. That's what it's gonna turn out.
And I'll just say, we have a really good plant down there. You know what we're saying about one of these technologically advanced, eco-friendly, doing a good job. And it's nice to have city staff that I trust. So you say you think this is a good idea, I'm on board.
Do we have a motion? So moved. We have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Please vote. Motion carries 4-0 with Mayor Garnes absent. Council reports and communications. Councilmember Wilson.
Yes, we had the HWMA meeting right after our meeting last time. And I reported previously that they were making some headway with the CRV labs. Not making headway. The state again is fiddling around with regulations and how they want to deal with this model bill. And so the people that want to do it Amro out of Crescent City, didn't want to put out a couple, $300,000 when they find out that they weren't going to benefit from the legislation that the state still not making up their mind on. So, I guess you still have to either store them in your backyard or haul them to Crescent City. The general consensus of the HWA board was to support Amro and try to get something because they can make something work. So they're on board with trying to get there, just get it past the state.
Is there any indication when the state will come up with rules?
I think September, that they're going to make this little August.
So several more months.
It's going to be a few more. And glass is another thing. They lost, HWA lost their ability to haul glass. Whoever the glass hauler was, don't follow garbage. Glass is a big deal. Nobody wants it. It's not worth it. And so the way that they dealt with it, they just put it on the floor and drove over with a loader and broke it all up so they could get a truck and they can haul it off somewhere. But now they don't have somebody to haul the glass away. So there's a lot of storage space associated with recyclables and where to do it. I mean, it's a space issue as well. So I don't know what people need to do. Buy stuff that doesn't get recycled. If they're buying the water bottles, your own water bottle, do things that don't use bottles yet, or containers that have to be recycled. That's a no-no. Have a bottle. You're supposed to have a bottle with your own water. So that's politically correct. Yeah, that's all. Thank you. Councilmember Carter?
I sat in on that meeting too, just because I was interested, but, no, other than that, I didn't have any meetings this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Wall?
Yes, I had an HTA meeting. It was our first meeting in person. We also were kind of hybrid because they also are doing this with us, and it worked real well with having some of the members on the Zoom and people here in person. We adopted the fiscal year 2021-2020 final budget. And also the ridership is down due to the COVID. And so the staff is working on incentives to incentivize people to start riding the buses again. So they're working on some things on that. I went to the fire department board of directors meeting, and number one, they said they worked well with the officers on the 4th of July. I guess, they had gotten together beforehand, and they were appreciative of that. Calls I'm going to read because sometimes I think we don't appreciate them enough for all they do. Medical aid 40, they had 75 calls in all. Medical aid 49, public assist 3, fires 1, false alarms 9, fire debris 1, hazard conditions 1, fire vehicles 4, and traffic collisions 4. And they did a good job on that.
Was that for the month of June?
Yeah, that was for the month of June, 75 calls. And they're getting ready for Wildwood Days, which we're all going to be happy with. And just a reminder that tomorrow's the Nuisance Abatement Committee meeting at 3 o'clock, and you can attend in person. That's it.
Thank you. I have several items. First, the HCOG meeting scheduled for Thursday afternoon has been canceled. Tomorrow morning, there'll be a LAFCO meeting, at which time there'll be consideration of Rio Dell's request for annexation of the city's sewer disposal field. Big item for the city. And I've got a couple other items that are really near and dear to my heart. One of them is when Rio Dell was becoming a kind of more of an upscale community, and we had paved road and sidewalks on both sides of it. Mercer Fraser did the work in 1940, and at that time, they placed flag holders in front of virtually every business in town. Now, some of those flag holders have been removed because There's been a driveway put in. There's been a change in ownership. There's been cracks in the sidewalk was replaced. But if you walk through the southern half of our community, you will find literally dozens of flag holders in the sidewalk. And I think we need to clean those out and get them back into service. I've talked to Nick Angelo from the chamber about it. He thinks it's a great idea. I volunteered to go out there with my roto hammer and auger out a bunch of holes so that come next holiday, we can have some flags down. Of course, I'd like to agendize that for a future meeting so that we can have a fair discussion in accordance with Ralph and Brown Act. Also, at a future meeting, I would like to discuss police department staff. As council may remember, at some of our previous budget meetings, I was an advocate for having one more police officer than we needed, because police officers, their line of business is dangerous. They get hurt in line of duty. As we see with Sergeant Bushane, they get hurt at home. They have needs for vacation. They have needs for a huge amount of training time. They have needs for huge amounts of court time when they're doing arrests. And I think in light of recent events, I think we need to bring that back to the council and have a robust discussion about it. That's all I have. At this time, I'll entertain a city manager.
So, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, I would recommend that you get a consensus of the council to have those items on the next agenda.
On the matter of light bulb holes, what is the feeling of the council? Good for it. Okay, on the matter of discussion of police department staffing, what is the for it? Okay, so we have two consensus for it. And again, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to dismiss.
I will make that motion.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll say.
Motion and a second, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Good job.